We are going to have some fun today. Hello, everyone. I'm Kevin Skarbinski. This is ScarboKnows. It's the middle of July. We haven't even hit the midpoint in July. We haven't even gotten to SEC football media days, which will kick off next week. So what are we talking about? What else? The Iron Bowl, the Alabama-Auburn or Auburn-Alabama rivalry, if you prefer, because it doesn't take much to light up those fan bases. And who did the honors this week? Who picked up the torch? Who threw gas on the fire? None other than former Alabama quarterback AJ McCarron, who has a new podcast of his own, along with his old backfield mate, running back Trent Richardson, and the voice of the Crimson Tide, Chris Stewart. They have a new podcast called The Dynasty, appropriately named, given everything that they accomplished under Nick Saban at Alabama, and that continued beyond their playing days. And Chris still does a fantastic job as the voice of the Crimson Tide. Now, AJ went out of his way in their latest episode to, as I said, torch Hugh Freeze and Auburn. So I thought, what better topic to tackle today than some of AJ's more incendiary words? Let's look at a few of the things that AJ had to say about this rivalry. Here's AJ, who, of course, is from South Alabama. He's a native, so this game meant a little extra to him. He said, and I quote, "If you are from the state of Alabama, I think it is dumb for you not to sign with the University of Alabama and pick Auburn over Alabama." Well, first of all, let's file that under the category of what would you expect him to say. He's an all-time great Alabama quarterback. He was the starting quarterback for back-to-back national championship teams in 2011 and 2012. He was a true freshman, didn't play. He was redshirting in 2009 when the Saban dynasty really took off with its first national championship. And, of course, Alabama beat Texas in the national championship game. So AJ has street cred on this subject. But, of course, a former Alabama player is going to suggest if you are a quality football player in the state of Alabama and you're trying to make a decision on where to play your college football, where do you think he's going to recommend? Texas? Michigan? Florida? Of course not. And certainly not Auburn. He's going to recommend Alabama. Now, I'm not sure that I would have gone that far. As a neutral observer, let's see. Bo Jackson might like to have a word with A.J. McCarron. Bo Jackson was a quality football player who grew up in Alabama, just down the road from where I am today in McAdory. In McCalla, actually, played at McAdory High School. He chose Auburn. How'd that work out for Bo? Pretty well. What about, let's change sports. How about Charles Barkley? If you go the other way on the interstate, Charles grew up in Leeds, Alabama. And as he likes to say, Birmingham is a suburb of Leeds in his mind. Quick, funny recruiting story. When Alabama and Auburn were recruiting Charles Barkley out of high school, Wimp Sanderson was the Alabama coach. Sonny Smith was the Auburn coach. And, of course, common sense told you, and certainly a map would have confirmed it, that it's a lot closer from Leeds to Tuscaloosa than it is Leeds to Auburn. But Sonny Smith, the sly old fox that he was, even then when he wasn't that old, convinced Charles's mother and grandmother, who were the people closest to Charles on the planet, that if you went over the mountain, it was just as close and just as quick to get from Leeds to Auburn as it was Leeds to Tuscaloosa. Wimp Sanderson still has never forgiven Sonny for that. So those are just two examples, obviously, of great Alabama-born and bred athletes who could have gone to the University of Alabama, instead chose Auburn University, and all they did was become legends, icons. Their statues are outside their prospective stadiums or arenas in Auburn on that campus. So it's a little foolish to say that you're dumb if you choose Auburn over Alabama. To each his own. That's an individual decision. You do what's best for you. Whatever AJ McCarron says, whatever Bo Jackson says, whatever Charles Barkley might say, you do you. You make yourself happy. You do what's best for you and your family. So let's look at what else AJ McCarron had to say about the Iron Bowl rivalry. He went a little further and a little bluer, a little cruder in talking about Auburn coach Hugh Freeze. And he said on the Dynasty podcast, and I quote, Hugh Freeze is full of, well, you know what he said. And I think Hugh Freeze is trying to do whatever he can to save face. Now, let's parse these two sentences in different ways. Is AJ McCarron wrong? Is Hugh Freeze full of you know what? On many, many subjects, you cannot disagree with AJ. What he's referring to here, though, is the explanation, if you like, the excuse, if you will, of why Auburn is ranked in the 70s at the moment. Their 2026 recruiting class, if you look at the 24/7 sports recruiting rankings, Auburn is down in the 70s. They were in the 80s about a week or so ago. And apparently there's a competition going on at the moment to see if Hugh Freeze's handicap golf score, his typical golf score, is lower than Auburn's actual recruiting rankings. Never thought I'd look at it that way, but it is very unusual to see Auburn ranked that low in recruiting. Below every other SEC team, below every football bowl subdivision program except for Colorado. That is not where you expect to see Auburn. It is not where you expect to see a team coached by Hugh Freeze. The last 2 years, of course, Auburn's recruiting classes under Hugh Freeze and company were ranked number 8 and number 10 in the country. So clearly they have fallen way behind. They're going to have to come from well off the pace to put together anything close to that kind of class this year. And what Hugh Freeze, aided and abetted by his athletics director, John Cohen, have said is that they're doing things the right way in this new rev share era, this new revenue sharing era, while implying that other schools, maybe the schools ranked well ahead of them, maybe their rival Georgia, which is ranked number 2 nationally in the 2026 recruiting rankings, maybe their rival Alabama, which is up to number 5 and has rolled in, 4 or 5 stars, 4 of them in the last couple of weeks, it seems. So what Freeze and Cohen are implying, of course, is that others are doing it wrong, that they're making promises that they won't be able to keep when they can put these offers in writing starting August 1st. And, of course, nobody can sign out of high school until the December signing period. So we'll see if it turns out that way. Why this bothers AJ McCarron, however, why it upsets him to the point that he would go Nick Saban in his language in discussing Hugh Freeze and his explanation/excuse for this current Auburn recruiting class, I'm not sure why. He has a bee in his bonnet. Maybe because it's Auburn, maybe because he's the former Alabama quarterback. And you got to talk about something in the middle of July if you care about college football, if you care about SEC football, if you care about football in the state of Alabama. Of course, you can always find an audience if you're going to talk about the Iron Bowl. And so AJ didn't mind, again, throwing that gas on that fire. So we'll give him partial credit for this one. I'm not sure Hugh Freeze is trying to save face. Hugh Freeze can't save face, if you will, unless Auburn wins a bunch of football games this year. And Auburn's not going to reel in another top 10, top 15, top 20, top 25 class from where they are now unless Auburn wins a bunch of football games this year. So I don't know if he's saving face or attempting to save face. He's attempting to explain, and you can buy the explanation or not. I guess we'll start to find out August 1st when these high school offers go out in writing. Okay, but AJ didn't stop there. He had plenty more to say. Let's see what his next point was in talking about the rivalry, the greatest rivalry in sports, if you ask me. I've got a little history on my side here. My first Iron Bowl was 1985. The kick, Van Tiffen blasts a 52-yard field goal on the final play at Legion Field to beat Auburn 25-23. Bo Jackson's last Iron Bowl, maybe the greatest football game I've ever seen in person, and it was my first Iron Bowl. The lead changed hands 4 times in the fourth quarter. That was an incredible era for dramatic, emotionally draining Iron Bowls for both sides. So I've got a little street cred here on this subject. So AJ decided to talk about the state of the state. And he said this: the state of Alabama, and I'm quoting exactly here, is ran by Alabama fans, Alabama alumni, whether you like it or not. He said that on the Dynasty podcast. Now, clearly, AJ is not up on his politics in the state of Alabama, because the last time I checked, the governor of the state of Alabama is named Kay Ivey. Kay Ivey graduated from Auburn University. And the last time I checked, there are 2 senators, 2 United States senators from the state of Alabama. One of them, the senior senator, makes me blink every time I utter those words, Tommy Tuberville, is a former head football coach in this state at Auburn University, who once made a lot of friends on one side, a lot of enemies on the other, by not only winning 6 straight Iron Bowls from 2002 to 2007, but by raising a new finger each year after each victory to indicate the number of consecutive wins Auburn had just compiled against Alabama. And Tommy is the senior U.S. Senator from the state of Alabama. He's an Auburn guy. Now, we have to have some equal representation in this state. So Katie Britt, the junior senator from the state of Alabama, she's married to former Alabama offensive lineman Wesley Britt, who was an outstanding player at the capstone for Mike Shula and company. So it's not exactly correct if we're worried about facts, if we're worried about accuracy, as we should be, whether we're talking, we're writing, we're discussing sports, we ought to try to be factual. We ought to try to be truthful, right? And one more thing about AJ's statement there. And let me first, before I get to that, let me just say this. He's not wrong in the fact that as long as I've lived here, it's fairly easy to tell anecdotally that there are more Alabama fans in this state than there are Auburn fans. I don't think the staunchest Auburn supporter, David Housel, the quintessential Auburn man, would disagree with that point. As far as I know, no one's ever done an actual scientific survey. Maybe I missed it if they did. But again, it's pretty clear. There are more Alabama fans than Auburn fans in the state of Alabama. And there are a lot of reasons for that. But to say that Alabama runs the state, or people from Alabama, Alabama alumni, former Alabama players, et cetera, not exactly true. Not to mention, and not to go all grammar Nazi here, but AJ, I think the word you wanted there was run. The state of Alabama is run by Alabama fans, Alabama alumni, whether you like it or not. If you want to use the phrase ran by, you might put it in a sentence like this. Chris Davis in the 2013 Iron Bowl ran by all the fat guys Alabama had on the field when their long field goal came up short, and Davis went 109 yards from end zone to end zone in a play that will forever live in infamy in Alabama fans' minds, known as the kick six. So let's be precise in our language, ran by versus run by. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. All right. So why would AJ McCarron, why would he get into this subject? Obviously, recruiting, where Alabama is up here, where Auburn is down here, is a big deal right now. So that obviously sparked that conversation on the Dynasty podcast with AJ and Trent Richardson and Chris Stewart. Why he felt the need to take shots at Auburn? Well, AJ's going to be AJ. But there may be an underlying burr in his saddle. Let's look at AJ's record against Auburn during his playing days as a quarterback at the University of Alabama. And we're not going to include 2009. AJ was a true freshman that year. He didn't play. He was redshirted. So he watched, and that was an incredible Iron Bowl in 2009. Alabama, on its way to an undefeated season and a national championship, had to come from behind, put together a late drive, and Greg McElroy threw the winning touchdown pass in Jordan-Hare Stadium. But we're not going to give AJ any credit for that one. So the games that he actually played in, he was a backup in 2010. And if you were there, this will resonate with you. I have been to a lot of games in a lot of sports, in a lot of places. I have witnessed, experienced, felt the wrath, the anger of a crowd towards a visiting team, a visiting coach. Tommy Tuberville inspired a lot of that when he was coaching Auburn from Alabama fans. But I have never, in all my years of covering college football and watching college football and experiencing college football in the most passionate state for college football in the entire country, I have never witnessed a more hostile crowd with that hostility directed towards a single individual as Alabama fans directed that day in 2010 towards Cam Newton. I don't know that any fan base ever wanted to beat a single player with any more, I almost want to use the word lust. It was bloodlust. I'm telling you. It started before the game when they played Son of a Preacher Man and Take the Money and Run. The official stadium DJ, that is, or whoever was running the music selections in Bryant-Denny Stadium in the pregame. And, of course, those were directed at Cam and his, the whole imbroglio. Did he cheat? Did he get paid to go to Auburn? Did Mississippi State offer him? Yes, Mississippi State did discuss money with his father. Didn't get any, according to Auburn, and the NCAA followed up with a 13-month colonoscopy of the Auburn football program. They didn't really find anything to substantiate the charge that Auburn paid Cam Newton to go there. And we're not going to relitigate that, but the game itself, Alabama was rolling. They were up 24-0, and the greatest comeback I've ever witnessed. Cam Newton put Auburn on his shoulders as he did that entire season. They came back and won 28-27. And AJ did make a cameo appearance late in that game. Greg McElroy got hurt, so they had to turn to AJ, who was the backup, and didn't go so well. He only got a few snaps. He was not able to lead Alabama to an inspirational comeback. So AJ was 0-1 as an eligible player in the Iron Bowl. The next 2 years, he's the starter. The gap between the teams was vast, and Alabama rolled over Auburn, both in Tuscaloosa in 2011 en route to a national championship, and back in Auburn in 2012 en route to I got that backwards. Both of those games, actually. 2011 was in Auburn. I got it backwards. So AJ did win in Jordan-Hare Stadium. Not a lot of Alabama quarterbacks can say that. And then 2012 back in Tuscaloosa, no contest, 49-0. Then came AJ's final Iron Bowl in 2013. What could have been his Heisman game, he actually had what would have been a Heisman moment, or could have been a Heisman moment in that game. The start of the fourth quarter, he throws a 99-yard touchdown pass to Amari Cooper, and Alabama takes the lead. And unfortunately for him and the Crimson Tide and the Crimson Nation, that was the last time Alabama would score in that game. Nick Marshall led Auburn on a tying touchdown drive late, And then, as we alluded to earlier, the kick six happened. So AJ was 2-2 as a player in the Iron Bowl. Does that still resonate with him? Does it still stick to his bones? Does it still wake him up at night? The vision of Cam Newton leading the Cam back in 2010, the vision of Chris Davis running by all of the fat guys, as Gary Danielson from CBS Sports called it, on the field goal protection unit when Adam Griffith's 57-yarder came up short, and Chris Davis went 109 yards to immortality. You have to know, as a competitor, and look, AJ McCarron was a great competitor. AJ McCarron still to this day, despite all the great quarterbacks that have followed him at Alabama, owns the record for the most wins as a starting quarterback in Alabama history. He was 36-4. 36-4 was the starting quarterback for back-to-back national championships. And not unlike Jay Barker, one of his predecessors at that position, got better and better as his career went on. You could say he was more of a caretaker, a game manager in 2011 when Trent Richardson and the running game and the ferocious defense limited teams to less than 10 points a game, something we may never see again in college football. But AJ worked at his craft. He improved his game and was a far better quarterback when he left Alabama than when he got there. In fact, as a senior, he won the Maxwell Award as the National Player of the Year. He won the Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award as the best senior quarterback in the country. And he finished runner-up in the Heisman balloting. We should have a contest. Does anyone know who won the 2013 Heisman? I do. Of course, it was Jameis Winston, another young man who was born and raised in this state. He didn't go to Alabama. He didn't go to Auburn. He went to Florida State. How'd that work out for him? Won a national championship in 2013, and he won the Heisman Trophy. AJ finished runner-up. So I say all this to tell you that I have the utmost respect for AJ McCarron and his college football career. He will go down in Alabama history as one of the best players at that position at that university. And that is a strong tradition. And when you ask, again, who has the record for most wins as an Alabama starting quarterback, it's not Bart Starr. It's not Kenny Stabler. It's not Steve Sloan. It's not Jalen Hurts. It's not Tua Tagovailoa. It's not Bryce Young. It's AJ McCarron still to this day. And someone's going to have to go a long way to surpass his 36 wins in 40 starts as the Alabama quarterback. So he is allowed his emotion towards the Iron Bowl. He's allowed his opinions about Hugh Freeze and Auburn. He's allowed and is expected to say some of the things that he said on that recent podcast. So I guess this all really comes down to one question. Is he too full of Bama? Does he have too much Bama in him? Or is he right about Hugh Freeze and Auburn? And of course, the answer is yes on both fronts. He is an Alabama man. And you can poke fun at his chest tat and all the slings and arrows that Auburn fans have thrown at him over the years. But they wish they had a quarterback that had the kind of career, not single season, but the career that AJ McCarron had. They wish they had a 4-year period or a 5-year period if you include his redshirt season in 2009. AJ was on the roster for 3 national championships in 5 years. Auburn wishes it could say that. Wishes it had a single player who'd been a part of 3 national championships ever. So, AJ, never change. You be you. You do you. You keep this Iron Bowl rivalry fired up in the middle of July before we get to SEC Media Days, before Kalen DeBoer takes the podium on Wednesday, before Hugh Freeze takes the podium on Tuesday, before Hugh Freeze tries to, in your words, save face about the state of Auburn's current recruiting class. You gave us something to talk about, something to think about, and that's what the Iron Bowl rivalry is all about. It doesn't happen just once a year. It happens every day of the year around here. I didn't know that when I moved to Alabama from Pennsylvania a long time ago after I'd gone to the University of Florida to graduate school, and then I made my permanent home here. I know it now. I learned it a long time ago. So bravo, AJ. Thank you for the material. Thank you for the emotion. Thank you for demonstrating to the world that forget Duke and North Carolina. Get out of here with the Yankees and the Red Sox. There is one rivalry that stirs the emotions deeper and more often than any other, and it's Alabama versus Auburn, or Auburn versus Alabama. You pick your side and stick with it. All right, everybody. Thank you for being with us here today. Thank you to executive producer Brendan Martin on the Sideline Sports Network, where you'll find great shows like Rob Brown, the Eddie Martin Show, some of the best, smartest, wisest minds following college sports. You'll find them on Sideline Sports, SEC Sideline Sports. All right, everybody. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next time on ScarboKnows. I'm Kevin Skarbinski. See ya.